immediately upstanding for the Chair and Vice Chair of Harlow Council.
Good evening, councillors. Please be seated. Apologies for absence.
Everybody.
We should say who's here.
Not quite. I've got Councillor Churchill, Councillor Andrew Johnson, Councillor Eddie Johnson and Councillor Shona Johnson are at the funeral.
Yeah.
Councillor Sue Evans, who's just had a new hit. Councillor David Carter, isn't he? David Carter, Councillor Mike Hardware and Councillor Tony Moore.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Wilkinson and Councillor Shins.
Thank you. Item 2, declarations of interest. There are none. Minutes of the previous meeting on pages 4 to 16. Are they agreed?
Agreed.
Item 4, chairs from the Chair. I've attended Rockford Garden Party, the Young Carers Award, the High Sheriff's Visit, Sawbridgeworth Civic Service, St Clair's, Livingston Garden Party, Health and Wellbeing for Children in Town Park, VJ Day, Newfoundland 50th anniversary, which will be presented with a lovely painting by a Canadian artist. Hopefully it will be shown very shortly downstairs. The Morden Merchant Navy Memorial. 2 lovely ladies, one of 101 and one of 105, which were presented with bouquets of flowers. This is the interesting one. Playhouse declaring new toilet facilities open.
We can't express what we think about that.
That's at your convenience, Mr. Councillor Durkee. Broxbrook concert. The Playhouse to meet the pantomime cast. Memories of Harlow 40th and 70th. Mind. And lastly, the charity golf day where we actually raised over £1,300. Just to remind everybody, my civic service is on the 27th of October in St Paul's. Now we come to a special occasion, a presentation of a civic award for Jackie Sully. Unfortunately, she was away at annual council. I'll now hand over to Bob Davis.
Thank you, Chair. Since writing the words for this award, I realised I should have written more. I've known Jackie for over 30 years, since she was a teenager. I have seen the impact she's had on people's lives and the community. The amount of money, resources and upskilling of people and organisations has been vast. I first met Jackie in 1989 while she was working in the voluntary sector in Harlow. In 1989 she set up Rainbow Services until her retirement she was Chief Executive Officer. Jackie has been the chair of the Harlow Strategic Partnership, and coupled with her role at Rainbow Services, she brought employment and finance in the town. Jackie has the ability to engage with people for them to reach their potential, whether in work or partnership working. And I just note, Chair, that a lot of these new councillors wouldn't have been born then. Sorry. Jackie is well respected in Harlow and the wider Essex area, well apart from her husband Robert, who always being told, your dinner's in the dog. They don't actually have a dog. As Jackie has always laid home from time to cook. Jackie has put a lot of years and effort into making the charity sector what it is today, and I believe the town needs to recognise this. A lot of people and organisations owe a debt to Jackie's efforts. I personally just can't see her retiring completely. On behalf of everyone here in the chamber, I would like to thank you. So thank you, Jackie.
Thank you. Yes, speak.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah, sorry.
Sure.
You didn't think you was going to get away with me not saying a word.
You don't have a microphone.
Yeah, I don't need a microphone, Tony. I've still got the loud voice, as my kids will testify. Well, thank you for this. It's very much appreciated and very humbling. But there's some other things that I want to say thank you for. Thank you to Harlow Council for many years of partnership working. People that know me well will know that the word partnership working was enough to make the hairs on the back of my neck stand up on end, because it usually involved someone commissioning the work and someone delivering, and there was no partnership there whatsoever. But Harlow Council provided Rainbow Services, the voluntary sector and me personally with many years of what I would call mutual respect and absolute support, without which I think, well, certainly the sector wouldn't have flourished as much as it did in Harlow. And to be honest, when I used to meet colleagues from across Essex, we were the envy of other districts in the county, because we did have such an honest and open relationship with the council. It wasn't all one way, but we did allow one another to grow and play on our own strengths and not micromanage, which is often the temptation in the voluntary sector, that you give a small pot of money and what you don't have to do to dance to the tune is unbelievable. And to me, that's why it worked. I couldn't miss an opportunity to thank my family, because Bob alluded to the fact that dinner's in the dog, and you all know that for you to do the work that you do when you're out often at weekends and you don't come home when you say you're going to come home, and then when you do get home you turn the computer on, it takes a lot of understanding and sympathies from your family. So to my family, thank you very much. Last but not least, my Rainbow team. People see you as the front person, and they see you more often than not, here, there and everywhere. But for your vision to become a reality, you need people that are on that journey with you, who subscribe to what you're doing, who believe in what you're doing, who believe in you. And there's never ever been a time when they didn't believe in me. So sometimes it worked, sometimes we fell over together, but to have a team that actually is behind you 100% of the way is absolutely fantastic. And that has always been Rainbow's strength. So I'm proud of Rainbow, but I'm proud of my team.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Item 6, petition from the public, there are none. Questions from the public, we have 2. Mr. Hope. Mr. Hope, do you want to read the question out?
Yes. Why are the police and Harlow Council not enforcing public space protection order for the town centre effective from the 5th of August 2019?
Thank you, Mr. Hope. Following the introduction of the Public Space Protection Order, there was a 2-week period to allow for education of the public regarding the order and for public notices to be erected. Since then, the order has been enforced by the police and the community safety team. A large amount of alcohol has been confiscated, and many cyclists have been instructed to dismount from their bicycles. In addition, there have been several arrests for drunken disorderly behaviour and public order offences. 8 community protection warnings and 2 fixed penalty notices have been issued. It should be noted that with a PSPO, the matter only becomes an offence if the perpetrator fails to comply with a request from the police or community safety officer.
Have you a supplementary question, Mr. Hope?
Yes. Thank you very much for your reply, but I think it's a load of nonsense.
Is that a question?
Since the 5th of August, I've been in the town centre.
Have you got a question, Mr.
Yes.
Hope?
I can guarantee you the police are not taking any notice whatsoever
Mr.
of
Hope,
this.
this is not, we need a question from you.
Yes,
Not a
right.
lecture.
Why are the police giving me the answer when someone is cycling down the bus lane tonight? Officer 75669 is not his job. I agree. Because after 6 o'clock, and I know no one works after 6 o'clock.
Mr. Hope, thank you for your supplementary question. I can't comment on a particular instance that you're just bringing to me now. If
Well, I
you-
can give you precedents as I gave you
Mr. Hope.
the other day. when we
Mr.
met.
Hope,
I'm more than happy for you to write to me and I'll take that matter up with the police on your behalf. Thank you.
Total waste of time.
your second question, Mr. Hope?
Yeah. Is the council seeking more funding so there's further accommodation like Bromley cottages can be built for the homeless of Harlow?
Again, thank you for the question. The council continues to seek additional funding in supporting its existing projects and new building renovating projects to support and prevent people from sleeping on the streets. As part of the government spending review announced in September 2019, additional funding will be made available to reduce homelessness and rough sleeping in 2020-21. More information should be known by December of this year, including on how the funding will be distributed. This funding is intended to deliver the government's aim to end rough sleeping by 2027 and to halve the number of rough sleepers by 2022.
Have you got a supplementary question, Mr. Hope? A question. You haven't got a question.
A supplementary I don't wish to ask you.
Thank you.
Because it's waste of time.
Mr. Hope, can you turn the microphone off, please? Questions from councillors? There are none. Item 9, motion from Councillor Stop the Knock, Councillor Toll, seconded by Councillor Jazza.
Thank you, Chair. I brought this motion here tonight to the council following contact with several people that have got themselves into financial difficulty in recent times. And hearing, I've heard different experiences, and from children of people that have experienced it from their parents being in debt, and some of the experiences that happen in these situations. I would say I think Harlow Council does a really good job working with people who do end up in financial difficulty for whatever reason. And I think we have some really good schemes going on. We've got a good policy, but that doesn't mean we can't improve it. So I thought I've looked into it and brought the Stop the Knock campaign, which is a campaign by the Money Advice Trust, who are widely recognised as the voluntary service experts on debt and how to get out of debt, on what steps local authorities can do, in particular around trying to end and curtail some of the practice around bailiffs. There's lots of ways and techniques to collect debt, and it should never be the case that someone that can pay won't pay. The people should pay their council tax and should pay their rent and contribute to society. However, the way in which we collect money is at the discretion of the council. And I look at some local authorities that in recent years, Hammersmith and Fulham trialled for a year a scheme which was reducing the use of bailiffs for any of their debt. At the end of the year, they found it worked so well, they actually stopped the use of bailiffs altogether. They founded and worked with another group to work in a different way, which is in a partnership way with those that are in debt, and they've actually increased the money that they bring in debt collection. The Bristol also followed suit by banning the use of bailiffs. So this isn't a pledge to completely ban, this is a introduced to look at how we work ethically. So actually the council meets some of these criteria that is laid out, and we do work. We have a welfare panel which helps provide support. We do assess people, although we believe that we should work towards using the recommended, and I know the officers are doing that to be in line, so that we're working across a national framework about where debt is and what is a reasonable amount to be repaid. I think particularly for those that are most vulnerable, I think if you are in debt, if you're in debt with your council tax or rent, the reality is you're probably in debt with credit cards, you're probably in debt with your bills, there's other issues going on, and you've probably ignored the calls and the letters and the emails from different organisations. If you're in benefits and you're limited things, having that knock on the bailiff adds £150 most times at first knock, and adds it every future knock. I've been on the cabinet and I've sat there when I've had debts that the council had. We put out to a team of bailiffs, added £600-700 they've been unable to collect. That's come back to us, and we've then had to write that off. I always think that those that if you can pay, you should pay. But I think we can work ethically in doing this, and I hope the council will support this tonight. I think we've got a long way to go forward on how we do that and how we work with some of our most vulnerable residents going forward.
You want to speak now, or? Okay. Councillor Charles.
Thank you, Chair. I think problem debt is often difficult to escape and can have devastating impact on people who have existing issues, including family problems or perhaps poor mental health. It is only right that people who fall into problem debt are helped to find a sustainable, long-lasting plan to solve their debt problems. I think it's also fair to say, irrespective of political colour in this administration, the Council does have a good record at referring people to citizens' advice, and of course the welfare panel regularly engages with vulnerable people on a regular basis, and their work should be recognised tonight. Looking at the Money Advice Trust website, it shows that in 1819, Harlow Council instructed bailiffs to collect debts from individuals and businesses on nearly 4,000 occasions, an increase of 63% since 16 and 17. So that means that the council will need to make a significant adjustment in its debt collection methods, as I hope tonight this motion is carried unanimously by council. I think, and the group does, the Conservative group thinks, that the Stop the Knock 6 steps for local authorities are a constructive way to raise awareness of bailiffs' use, and steps that can be taken to better support people in vulnerable circumstances. It is also true to say that the activity of bailiffs has been limited to a much greater degree since the government's reforms that were introduced in 2014. Such reforms included bailiffs being banned from entering homes when only children are present, and there is now mandatory training and a new certification process for all bailiffs, which I think is a positive step forward and has been enforced for a number of years now. Now, following the government's call for evidence this year regarding the 2014 bailiff reforms, potential future policy has now been outlined to beef up the current rules and regulations around how we monitor bailiffs. And there is there's a proposal put forward to establish a new independent regulator. I think the government has said that it intends to review the establishment of an independent regulator in due course, and shall decide whether such an establishment is necessary to move forward and tackle issues around bailiff control. I think on the wider issues of helping those who find themselves in problem debt, I'm glad that the Government Commission Money Advice Service is spending over 56 million to provide debt advice to over 500,000 people. And then we had in June, the Treasury unveil a breathing space scheme that provides debtors with a 60-day period in which interest and charges on their debts are frozen and enforcement action from creditors is paused. And I have to say, I think that's a positive step forward, and I think all of Council can agree with that. Addressing the motion and the 6 steps directly, the Conservative group will be supporting the motion, and I would suggest that there is actually scope for some cross-party work to implement the 6 steps that have been outlined as a result of this campaign. I think in particular, step 4 that calls for a formal vulnerability policy to be established as a standalone document, we are willing, as part of a cross-party working group, to develop the policy if the administration is keen to proceed on that basis. So to conclude, Chair, I think the Conservative group believes that this Council has a moral responsibility to do what it can to support vulnerable people to navigate debt problems, particularly those on the local council tax support scheme. When residents genuinely face difficulty paying their council tax, maybe through sadly unemployment or having low income, the council must adopt a proportionate response, show compassion, and be willing to offer a helping hand. I think the 6 steps we are discussing tonight offer a positive direction of travel. Thank you.
Councillor Davis.
Thank you, Chair. Obviously going to support this motion, but I just want to remind members about the Harlow Save Credit Union that's put in place to encourage people to save and have cheap loans compared to the high street, and the council supports that because people pay through that through the payroll at Harlow Council and HDS and other organisations. I just remind people about that thing. Also, they also provide smart advice, and that's to engage with people that cannot manage their finances. And we've got quite a lot of people that are on universal credit about that problem. As Councillor Charles has said about the welfare panel, that's both parties support the welfare panel, and we've done lots of work to engage with people that basically have been putting their head in the sand and not engaging until they're at risk of losing their house. And we've engaged with lots of people, put them on the right track, and that's been good for them and it's been good for us. So that's all I really want to say, Chair, is that just to remind people about these other avenues where we do support people. Thank you.
Councillor Giselle.
Hiya. I'm not going to come at you with loads of facts and statistics and numbers, because I primarily think this is, well, mainly about being a bit more compassionate in the way that we deal with things. But I think this is a great opportunity for the council to adopt the 6 pledges from the Stop the Knock campaign, from making a commitment to the use of to reducing the use of bailiffs over time, offering those who are struggling with their payments and support, signposting them to the relevant agencies who are able to offer support and guidance in need, as well as put in place policy that helps vulnerable people and residents in difficult circumstances. And by implementing these 6 pledges of this motion, I believe this will help build a better relationship with the residents of Harlow and the council. And from that we can build a more transparent and less I don't know what the word is, but process when it comes to collecting payments from those who have fallen behind. I'd like to reiterate what Councillor Littell said, and a lot of these people, their debt for council isn't their only debt. If you've not got personal experience of it, you only have to watch programs like I don't want to say the words, poverty porn, Can't Pay Will Take It Away, for you to see the kind of level of trauma and anxiety that bailiff action actually does cause. And if we're able to take away that particular level of anxiety out of primarily vulnerable people who are fearful of bailiff action from day to day, I think it's certainly something that we should do, which is why I'm seconding this motion, and I do massively support it, and I hope you all do too. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to welcome the comments that Councillor Charles made and his warm words of support for this motion that Councillor Told has brought forward. Clearly, if Harlow Council can do something to prevent problem debt becoming more of a problem and help people out of debt, we should be doing it. That is the right moral case. But I do think it's a bit rich that we hear probably 2 minutes of your 3-minute speech talking about how this Conservative government is doing so much to help relieve the burden of debt when all the evidence shows that their botched rollout of universal credit has caused a massive increase in the debt that needs to be serviced.
Thank you to everyone that's participated in the debate, and it was risking me not saying moving that my thanks to all of the council staff, particularly in the Revs and Ben's team, that do a huge amount of work to support those that do get into debt and financial problem within the council. They have a very hard job at times, and they do it very well, and I look forward to working with them to move forward and be able to implement these 6 steps. I know that I've been offered a meeting with the team to come in and discuss how it takes forward, and look forward to taking forward the offer of help from the opposition to develop policies and getting this done as quickly and as soon as possible, because it's one of these things that can't wait any longer, and I feel like we need to get moving on this. So I'll start by going in with the officers working on that and take up the support of the opposition on that. So thank you to everyone for participating. I think it will help those that are most vulnerable in our town.
Head right.
No, it shouldn't be.
It's called finish. Move to the vote.
Can I move the motion? Those in favour? That is carried. The second motion is volunteers in the town. Councillor Mason.
Hands in your pockets.
Good evening, everyone. It's really hard to follow on from Jackie Sully, who talked very much about the volunteer sector in Harlow and her work. Bit of a hard act to follow, but nevertheless, I was delighted to attend the town park in July, and it was a barbecue for as a way of thanking all the volunteers in Harlow on behalf of our portfolio holder, Eugenie Harvey, sorry. And really, this is the 11th year that Parndenwood have got the green flag, and also the 4th year that the town park has, which is a tremendous achievement and really recognition for all the work that goes on by the volunteers and other people that are working for Harlow Council to create a wonderful place that's inclusive for everyone in the town park. The green flag itself is a very high standard, recognised internationally, and you know, when we walk through the town park, and there's been a number of events in the summer, all the flowers and everything is maintained and worked by our volunteers, and I think that's pretty incredible. And it doesn't just stop there, because it goes right across the way. We've got volunteers in the museum, in the playhouse. I mentioned Pets Corner, Stork Valley Meadows, the Wild Space, the Green Team volunteers. And it's just pretty amazing. And it was felt that it was important that they should be recognised and thanked, because Harlow wouldn't be the place it was if it wasn't for the sort of volunteers that we have that spend their time, including many people that may be in this council chamber already supporting local theatres, etc., and other volunteers, Pets Corner. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I'll just say a couple of words, and I think there's a bit of a theme emerging tonight, and it is around volunteerism, and I wanted just to use the opportunity to recognise another group of volunteers. We had in this chamber on the weekend the Harlow Arts Trust Public Arts Symposium, which Tony Edwards and I were lucky enough to attend. I'm not sure, forgive me if others were there and I don't mention you, but it was a really incredible event, largely staged by the volunteers of the Harlow Arts Trust. And I just wanted to make very clear to everybody here what incredible external enthusiasm there was from these world-class speakers for the role of public art in Harlow, past, present and future, and to recognise that the Harlow Arts Trust is largely a volunteer organisation, and again we are just so fortunate in Harlow. So just to build on that, theme of the evening, and to recognise those volunteers as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I also want to support the motion tonight celebrating volunteers in Harlow. I think it's important to recognise the role of our volunteers, whether they're in Pets Corner. I need to mention that, or Councillor Nick Churchill will be not very pleased with me. He would love to be here today to contribute to this debate, but unfortunately he's not very well. I think that the work that the volunteers do in the town park, but in particular Pindenwood Nature Reserve, and that's where I want to focus my comments tonight. It is true to say that it is the 11th consecutive year that the Pindenwood Nature Reserve has been awarded the Green Flag status, and we're particularly proud as an administration when we were back in 2009 when the first Green Flag was awarded to Pindenwood. And the man that led that charge was Darren Fazakerley. Darren Fazakerley was Harlow's environmentalist, and he should be celebrated for the work that he did whenever we can, because the man was passionate about supporting the voluntary groups, whether it be the Harlow Biodiversity Group. He was always there, front and centre, engaging with them, and we should always recognise his achievements. I think his legacy will live on, and we should always celebrate that. And he was a true volunteer as well as a council employee. And I have to say, in my engagements with Darren, he was an absolutely brilliant man. He was great fun. But Pindenwood has flourished, and you can see that with the team that have formed part of the Essex Biodiversity Action Plan and working through that process, the volunteers that upkeep Pindenwood and always are out engaging with local people to get them to come to the nature reserve, because it is an asset, it's a jewel in the crown in Harlow. We should always try and celebrate it. I think far too often the power of volunteering is underestimated in society, and actually the council has a very clear leadership role in encouraging more people to get involved in their local community. There are a great range of voluntary sector organisations in this town, and we've heard a very great speech, and I echo what Councillor Mason has said about Jackie Sully. I was fortunate to be able to work with her for a number of years, and she was always a fantastic advocate of Harlow and the flourishing voluntary sector in this town. But overall, we've got to keep up and recognise that volunteers are the backbone of our society. I think, as you would expect me to say, the big society in this town is alive and well.
I think the point that Jackie Sully made earlier on in her speech about partnership is the important thing as far as volunteering is concerned. On the one hand, one could have a big society model, volunteering, where volunteers are encouraged to take on all sorts of things and run all sorts of things. But unless there is the underpinning infrastructure there, unless there is the underpinning funding there, unless there is the underpinning partnership work there, then it will fail. And there's examples of things being handed over to the voluntary sector where those things haven't been in place and things have failed. So the important thing, it seems to me, in terms of volunteering, we celebrate volunteering here, and we celebrate that the work that those volunteers do. But we as a council must always be equally committed to ensuring that when they carry out those tasks as volunteers, if they require assistance from the council, if they require funding from the council, if they require infrastructure support in whatever way, then we as a council have to be able to provide that and engage with that. So it's about, it seems to me, in terms of the celebration of volunteering, it's about, as I say, celebrating, recognising it, celebrating it, and supporting it.
Town wouldn't be the town it was without the volunteers. So I urge you all to support the motion, but also just recognise and thank our whole community for making the town that we are the best it is. Because too often we see negative things on social media, but actually we don't talk enough about the good news stories, really. Thank you.
We now vote on the motion. Those in favour? That's unanimous. Thank you. Item 10 is Referral from the Licensing Committee,
Move, Chair.
and seconded by
Councillor Mason.
yes, Councillor Perrin.
I'm just moving it.
You're not just moving it. Is that agreed?
Agreed.
Referrals from Cabinet Annual Treasury Report.
So moved, Chair.
Seconded.
Thank you.
Agreed.
Great.
Agreed.
Report from officers, there are none. Items 12A to F. Agreed.
Noted.
Noted.
There are no matters of urgent business. And you're all welcome to come to the Chairman's Chamber.
Thank you, Chair.